My mom treats my sister's 6-month boyfriend better than my fiancé of 3 years. I'm 26 years old, and I'm seriously considering cutting off my mother. Like completely. No contact. And I need to know if I'm being unreasonable here because this decision is tearing me apart, but I also don't see any other option at this point. My fiancée Lacey is 23, and we've been together for over 3 years now. We met in college, and honestly, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm originally from the Midwest. She's from Hawaii. And for the past couple of years, my mom has made it her personal mission to make Lacey feel unwelcome in our family. And it's getting worse, not better. Let me give you some context because I know this sounds dramatic. After college, I lived and worked in Alabama for 2 years while Lacey finished her degree. My mom was totally supportive of that move. She loved telling people her son was working in the South, thought it was great for my career, never complained about the distance. During those 2 years, she visited me exactly one time, the week I moved in. That's it. And it was a short 2 to 3 hour direct flight from where my parents live. Super easy. But she came once, and that was it. When Lacey graduated, we had a decision to make about where to build our life together. We talked about it for months. Lacey is deeply connected to Hawaii. Her entire family still lives there. She grew up there. It's her home in every sense of the word. And honestly, I wasn't particularly drawn to staying in the Midwest or the South. I lived in both, and neither felt like where I wanted to put down roots. So we decided together to move to Hawaii. My parents had a tough time with this news, which I completely understood. It's farther than Alabama, I get that. My dad wasn't originally supportive of the decision, but he's a reasonable guy. He understood that Lacey and I have the freedom to make our own choices as adults. He came to terms with it pretty quickly, started asking about our plans, seemed genuinely interested in this new chapter of our lives. My mom continued to harbor this deep resentment toward Lacey, and she wasn't subtle about it. She started making these snarky comments about our decision, always directed at Lacey or about Lacey. She seems to have this idea that Lacey is some kind of villain who's trying to steal me away from my family, that Lacey is prioritizing her family over mine and forcing me to do the same. The thing that really gets me is her excuse for why this move is so terrible. She claims that moving to Hawaii makes it so she can't fly out to see me as often anymore. But like I said, when I was in Alabama, and it was a short, easy, cheap flight, she visited me once in 2 years. Once. So this idea that distance is the problem doesn't really hold water. Plus, we FaceTime regularly. We had no plans to stop that. We wanted to stay connected. This wasn't about cutting them off. It was about building our lives in a place that made sense for both of us. After our move, the comments just kept coming, and they still haven't stopped. During our FaceTime calls and in text messages, she'll make these remarks about how our problems wouldn't exist if we just stayed in the Midwest. Like, I'll mention that my car needs an oil change or that I had a frustrating day at work, and she'll jump in with something like, well, you wouldn't have to deal with that if you'd stayed here where you belong. She started sending us job postings for jobs in the Midwest, even though we both had stable, relatively enjoyable jobs in Hawaii. Just these random emails with links to positions we never asked about, with little messages like, just thought you should see this, or keeping my eyes open for you. But the thing that really hurt Lacey was the articles. My mom would send us articles that she claimed she just stumbled upon randomly about how terrible Hawaii is. Articles about how Hawaii has the dirtiest beaches, how it's unsafe, how the cost of living is unsustainable, how the culture is unwelcoming to outsiders. Just this constant stream of negativity about the place Lacey has lived her entire life. The place she's deeply connected to, not just geographically, but culturally. Lacey is extremely connected to Hawaiian culture, to the land, to the people. And my mom was basically sending her articles saying everything about her home was wrong or bad or dangerous. I watched Lacey read one of those articles once. She didn't say anything, just set her phone down and went quiet for the rest of the evening. When I asked her about it later, she said, "Your mom is telling me that everything I love about where I'm from is worthless." And she was right. That's exactly what my mom was doing. Meanwhile, my sister had started dating someone new. They'd been together maybe 6 months when all this was happening. And this boyfriend just happened to live in the Midwest. Suddenly, my mom couldn't stop talking about how wonderful he was, how much she loved his family, how great it was spending time with him. Every conversation involved some glowing update about my sister's boyfriend and his perfect Midwestern family. But when she talked about Lacey or Lacey's family, nothing but distaste and criticism. The contrast was so stark it was painful. And honestly, from the comments my mom makes, it sometimes feels like the issue is that Lacey isn't white and isn't from the Midwest. I hate even thinking that about my own mother, but the pattern is pretty clear. This year, things came to a head around Christmas. Lacey's parents offered to host my family for the holiday. They have a beautiful home in Hawaii, and they genuinely wanted to welcome my family and show them some Hawaiian hospitality. My parents had always talked about wanting to vacation somewhere warm for Christmas, so they were initially eager to accept the invitation. My dad, being the reasonable person he is, suggested to my mom that they should reach out to Lacey's parents beforehand. just to thank them for the generous offer, to offer to chip in for groceries and meals, to ask if there was anything they could help with or bring. Basic courtesy, right? Common sense when someone is hosting you for a major holiday. My mom scoffed, literally scoffed. She rolled her eyes and said, "We don't need to do that. We're the guests." I felt my jaw clench when she said that, because this is directly opposite to how she treats my sister's boyfriend's family. Whenever they go to events with his family, my mom is falling over herself to chip in, to help plan, to bring hostess gifts, to show appreciation. She can't do enough for them. But for Lacey's family, they're supposed to be grateful she's even showing up. As we started planning the festivities with Lacey's family, my mom was constantly criticizing and scrutinizing every activity they suggested. Lacey's mom would propose going to a particular beach, and my mom would find something wrong with it. Too crowded, too far, too whatever. Lacey's dad would suggest a restaurant for dinner, and my mom would complain about the menu or the location or the price point. Nothing was good enough. I could see it happening in real time. She started to dread the idea of visiting us for Christmas altogether. Even minor details would frustrate her. What should have been an exciting family gathering was becoming this source of stress and negativity. And this was going to be the first time they'd come to visit us in over a year. More than a year since we'd moved, and this was their first visit. Then I proposed to Lacey. It was this perfect moment on the beach at sunset, everything I'd hoped it would be. She said yes, and we were so happy. We started wedding planning almost immediately because we were just excited about this next chapter. For the bridal shower, Lacey wanted something simple. Nothing fancy or elaborate. Just a nice get-together with the people who matter to us. No big decorations, no elaborate entertainment, nothing that required a ton of planning or coordination. We decided to hold it near my parents in the Midwest because several of the bridesmaids live there, and we also have family members in the Midwest who we knew wouldn't be able to make the trip to Hawaii for the wedding. This way, they'd still get a chance to celebrate with us. My mom seemed content with planning the shower alongside Lacey's sister, who's the maid of honor. But then she started trying to steer the entire event to be more centered on my side of the family instead of being a joint family celebration. She wanted to control the guest list, the activities, everything. She wanted it to feel like a party for my family that Lacey happened to be attending, rather than a celebration bringing both families together. Then the topic of payment came up, and that's when things got really ugly. My mom tried to avoid all responsibility for helping sponsor the event. She insisted that Lacey's sister should be paying for everything. Lacey's sister, who was currently furloughed from her job and not receiving any paychecks. My mom actually said, "The groom's family has nothing to do with the bridal shower. This isn't our responsibility." Lacey was crushed. She called me after that conversation in tears. Weddings are supposed to represent both families welcoming the new spouse, accepting them into the family, celebrating the union. But it was crystal clear that my mom didn't view it that way at all. She saw this as something she had no obligation to participate in or support. I brought it up with my mom directly. I told her it would be really nice if they could help chip in for this, especially considering that Lacey's family is paying for the entire wedding. That's a huge expense, and they're taking on without complaint because they want us to have the day we're dreaming of. My mom's response? Lacey's family is expected to pay for the wedding. That's tradition. We are not expected to pay for the bridal shower. We'll pay for your sister's wedding when the time comes. I had to read that text 3 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She was basically saying that she'd fully fund my sister's wedding to her boyfriend of less than a year, but she wouldn't contribute a couple $100s to a simple bridal shower for my fiancé of 3 years. The favoritism couldn't have been more obvious if she tried. And these things I'm telling you about, they're just the tip of the iceberg. This is a small sample of the constant disdain and disrespect my mom has shown Lacey over the past couple of years. Every milestone that should be exciting and joyful has been tainted by my mom's behavior. Our first big move together, our first Christmas as an engaged couple, now our wedding planning. All of it is overshadowed by her negativity. We tried talking to her multiple times. We've sat down and explained as calmly and clearly as we could how her actions make us feel, how hurtful her comments are, how isolating it feels for Lacey to be treated this way by my family. Or rather, by my mom specifically, because my dad and sister have been mostly supportive. My dad has even stepped in to try to reason with her. He's told her she's being unfair, that she's pushing me away, that she's going to lose her son over this. But nothing seems to get through to her. She either doesn't believe she's doing anything wrong, or she doesn't care. I honestly can't tell which is worse. The thing is, we're building a life together. Lacey and I, we're planning to get married, to buy a home, to eventually have kids. And I cannot imagine bringing children into a dynamic where their grandmother openly resents their mother, where every family gathering is tense because grandma is making passive-aggressive comments about where we live or how we're raising them or whatever the issue of the day happens to be. I don't want my future kids to grow up watching their mom be treated as less than by my family. I don't want them to internalize the message that some family members are worth more than others based on where they're from or what they look like or whose side of the family they belong to. That's not the kind of family culture I want to create. So Lacey and I have been seriously discussing cutting my mom off. Not just reducing contact or setting boundaries, but actually going no contact. Not seeing her, not talking to her, not including her in our lives. And that decision is absolutely gut-wrenching for me because she's my mom. I love her. I have good memories with her from my childhood. But I also love Lacey, and I'm choosing to spend my life with Lacey. And I can't keep subjecting her to this treatment. The breaking point came last week. We were on a video call with my parents, just a regular check-in. Lacey mentioned that she'd been promoted at work, something she'd been working toward for months. It's a big deal, comes with a significant raise and more responsibility. She was so proud and excited to share the news. My mom's response was silence. Just complete silence. Then she changed the subject to ask me about whether we'd considered moving back to the mainland for better job opportunities. Right after Lacey had just told her about getting promoted. Like the promotion didn't matter, wasn't worth acknowledging because it was in Hawaii and therefore didn't count. After he hung up, Lacey just sat there for a minute. Then she said, "I don't think your mom is ever going to accept me." And I didn't have a response because I think she's right. I called my dad separately the next day, told him how I was feeling, how serious Lacey and I are about potentially cutting mom off. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. She's not hearing any of us, and you have to protect your family. Lacey is your family now." That conversation made me feel both better and worse. Better because my dad gets it and isn't going to make this harder than it already is. Worse because the fact that even he sees this as a reasonable response means the situation really is as bad as I think it is. We set a deadline for ourselves. We're going to try one more conversation with my mom. One final attempt to explain our boundaries and what needs to change. We've written out exactly what we need to say so we don't get derailed or emotional. The boundaries are simple. 1. She needs to stop making negative comments about Hawaii, Lacey's family, or our decision to live here. 2. She needs to stop sending articles, job postings, or other materials designed to make us doubt her choices. 3. She needs to treat Lacey and her family with the same respect and courtesy she shows my sister's boyfriend and his family. 4. She needs to participate in wedding planning and events in good faith, not as an obligation she resents. And 5. She needs to acknowledge that her behavior has been hurtful and commit to doing better. If she can't agree to these boundaries, or if she agrees but then continues the same behavior, we're done. No contact. She won't be invited to the wedding. She won't meet her future grandchildren. We'll keep in touch with my dad separately, and he's okay with that arrangement. He's even said he'll support whatever decision we make. Part of me feels like I'm being too harsh. Like maybe I should be more patient, more understanding. She's my mom. Shouldn't I try harder to make this work? But then I think about Lacey reading another article about how terrible her home is. Or standing in a room full of my family while my mom gushes about my sister's boyfriend and barely acknowledges Lacey's existence. Or crying on the phone because she doesn't feel welcome at her own bridal shower. And I realize that I've already been patient. I've been understanding. We've had conversation after conversation. We've made excuses for her behavior. We try to see things from her perspective. And nothing has changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. The conversation is scheduled for this weekend. We're doing it over video call because we live in Hawaii and she's in the Midwest. And honestly, I think having that physical distance might help keep things from getting too heated. We've told my dad when it's happening so he can be there for support and to hopefully help mediate. I'm terrified. I'm terrified she's going to dismiss everything we say. I'm terrified she's going to turn this into us attacking her. I'm terrified that this is going to blow up our entire family. But I'm also clear about what needs to happen. Either she respects Lacey and our life together, or she doesn't get to be part of that life. Those are the options. Lacey keeps asking me if I'm sure about this. If I'm really okay with potentially losing my relationship with my mom over this. And every time she asks, I tell her the same thing. I'm not losing my mom. My mom is choosing to lose me by refusing to accept the person I love. This isn't on us. We're not the ones being unreasonable. I keep thinking about what life would look like without my mom in it. No calls on holidays. Not including her in big announcements. Our future kids not knowing their grandmother on my side. And it makes me sad. Really, genuinely sad. But then I think about what life would look like if we kept her in it under the current circumstances. Constant tension. Lacey feeling unwelcome and disrespected. Every milestone tainted by negativity. Teaching our future kids that this kind of treatment is acceptable. And that makes me even sadder. So yeah, we're cutting her off if this conversation doesn't go well. And honestly, I don't think it's going to go well. I think she's going to be defensive and make excuses and refuse to see how her behavior has impacted us. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But I'm preparing myself for the reality that I might be saying goodbye to my relationship with my mother this weekend. And if that happens, I need to know that I'm making the right choice. That protecting Lacey and our future together is worth this cost. That I'm not being overdramatic or unreasonable. That cutting off a parent who refuses to respect your partner is a valid and justifiable decision. Because right now, sitting here writing this all out, it feels both completely necessary and absolutely devastating. And I just need to hear from other people that I'm not crazy for considering this. That this is, in fact, as bad as it seems. that we've tried hard enough and it's okay to be done trying. The wedding is in 8 months. If we go through with cutting her off, she won't be there. My mom won't be at my wedding. I'll be getting married without my mother present. And that thought makes me want to cry and scream and give up on the whole idea. But then I imagine her being there, making faces during the ceremony, refusing to smile in photos with Lacey's family, making some comment about how we should have had the wedding in the Midwest. And I realize that her presence would actually be worse than her absence. So that's where we are. That's what we're dealing with. And in a few days, we'll know whether my mom is willing to change or whether I'm really going to have to cut her out of my life to protect the life I'm building with Lacey. I just hope we're making the right choice. I hope that years from now, I'll look back on this decision and know that it was necessary, that it was worth it, that choosing Lacey and our happiness over my mother's inability to let go and accept change was the right thing to do. Because right now, it just feels like loss. Even though I know it's the right decision, it still feels like I'm losing something important. And I guess that's what makes this so hard. It's not a choice between right and wrong. It's a choice between two painful options, and I'm picking the one that hurts less in the long run, even though it hurts like hell right now.
Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow.